Dato Seri menginginkan bentuk kuasa untuk mengurangkan defisit pada 3% 2015. Kami masih menekankan bahawa pengumuman sebegian termasuk perbicaraan soal kerangka ekonomi tidak selesai dengan pengumuman tanpa pernyataan, peraturan, langkah dan kebijakan yang lebih tepat yang menjamin bukan sahaja kelangsungan dan kemampanan pertumbuhan ekonomi tetapi juga keselesaan dan kesejahteraan rakyat. Tetapi ini dipersulitkan lagi kerana beberapa langkah utama yang diputuskan oleh Dato Seri Najib itu masih dalam peringkat dengan penuh kerahsiaan. Umpamanya keprihatinan rakyat tentang sikap kabinet dalam perbicaraan soal Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement yang akan menyentuh kedudukan ekonomi dan kerangka ekonomi serta kebijakan ekonomi tetapi tidak diketahui awal, tidak melibatkan masyarakat terbanyak termasuk pakar-pakar ekonomi, parti-parti politik dan juga NGO yang terbabit. Lantaran kepincangan ekonomi berterusan, kegagalan mengendali dan menangani ekonomi, pembaziran, ada perbincangan untuk memperkenalkan GST, Goods and Services Tax, walaupun disebut secara berperingkat untuk menangani masalah defisit. Tapi kami dalam Pakatan Rakyat mengulangi pendirian bahawa GST itu hanya munasabah seandainya kedudukan pendapatan rakyat meningkat, harus dijalankan secara berperingkat dan ini tidak boleh dilakukan bila kita saksikan pertumbuhan pendapatan kalangan berpendapatan rendah atau pertumbuhan pendapatan umumnya masih di tahap 2.6% yang dicapai di antara tahun 2000 sehingga 2010. Saya ingin mengingatkan Dato Seri Najib bahawa beliau dan Kerajaan UMNO Barisan Nasional tidak mendapat mandat penuh dari rakyat dan oleh demikian harus lebih waspada dan berhati-hati dalam melaksanakan program supaya dapat diterima oleh rakyat. Saya ambil contoh tambahan tentang janji Kerajaan Barisan Nasional untuk menambah rumah mampu milik bagi golongan pertengahan sekurang-kurangnya dengan mengurangkan harga rumah sebanyak 10% dalam tempoh 1 tahun. Belum ada petanda kesungguhan atau keupayaan dalam melaksanakan. Suatu isu lain yang cukup memprihatinkan ialah soal jenayah yang meningkat dan luas berlaku dalam negara kita. Ia menyentuh hampir setiap keluarga, setiap jalan, setiap pekerja. Dan ini termasuk juga beberapa jenayah besar. Ini bukan soal menyalahkan sesiapa, tetapi tanggungjawab keamanan dan mengawal pelakuan jenayah ini masih terletak pada kerajaan, Menteri Dalam Negeri dan polis. Ada persepsi yang meluas bahawa ada kelemahan dalam menangani masalah ini. Jadi langkah pertama adalah meningkat usaha pengawalan, dan langkah kedua adalah memperbaiki persepsi yang negatif terhadap penguat kuasa. Saya telah usulkan supaya Pakatan Rakyat diberi ruang membantu sepenuhnya pihak polis bersama dengan rakyat dalam majlis-majlis dan apa-apa juga tindakan yang perlu. Malah kita akan bincangkan perkara ini dalam sidang Hari Pakatan Rakyat esok, supaya kita wujudkan jawatankuasa bersama antara kerajaan, malah Pakatan Rakyat dan Barisan Nasional, untuk bersama dengan Ketua Polis Negara membahaskan isu jenayah yang sekarang ini terlalu meluas dan melibatkan terlalu ramai rakyat. Akhirnya saya menggesa dan mendesak Dato Seri Najib untuk menerima tiga tuntutan rakyat, gerakan rakyat, dan mengizinkan pertemuan dan perhimpunan di Padang Merbuk pada 22 Jun seperti mana yang dicadangkan oleh jawatankuasa penyelaras. Okay. Now I cautiously take note of the announcement by Dato Seri Najib on the formation of a committee that will focus on reducing the national budgetary deficit to 3% by 2015. An economic undertaking of that feat could have easily been achieved through strict economic governance and transparent government procurement without the need for any new taxes or cutting of essential government expenditures with direct impact on the people's livelihood. Unfortunately, Dato Seri Najib continues to govern behind a veil of secrecy. There is a growing concern over his cabinet's conduct on the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement (TPPA) negotiations, precisely because of his administration's refusal to be transparent and inclusive during the negotiations. In fact, much of the financial burden that adds to the ballooning of national budgetary deficit also originates from his unsound vote-buying schemes that cost the public billions of ringgit in the last elections. The BN government must not drag the public to cover for its economic incompetence and policy shortfalls. Any attempt to introduce a new goods and services tax, GST, albeit in stages, to reduce the budgetary deficit will be resisted much in the same force that the people had resisted electoral fraud. I maintain that GST can only be introduced if the average level of income of common Malaysians have risen significantly over a period of 5 years in comparison to the low 2.6% average wage growth achieved between 2000 and 2010. 2.6% in 10 years. Dato Seri Najib does not have the full legitimacy in terms of popular vote, and he has not been able to deliver the most basic of his economic promises since being sworn in recently. The fact that his administration struggles to reduce car prices as promised in his manifesto exemplifies to provide affordable and livable housing for the people. We shall track the government's performance on public housing closely and will consider it a failure if it cannot bring down the average prices of mid-range housing by at least 10% in the next 1 year. The public is alarmingly concerned with the escalating crime rate, especially violent crimes. It is not in our place as public officials to blame the concern on the misperception, as safety and fear are all a question of perception. Clearly, there is a serious credibility issue engulfing our police force that continuously dilutes the public's confidence in its ability to provide safety. Pakatan Rakyat can contribute constructively to allay the public concern. I offer Pakatan Rakyat's full assistance to the police force to work together in engaging the public to bridge the growing gap between credibility and perception with the real and honest work that the police have been putting. I will table to the Pakatan Rakyat leadership that a committee made up of Pakatan Rakyat and Barisan Nasional representatives is formed immediately to work with the IGP and his officials to address the concerns over safety. Finally, I urge Dato Najib to meet the three demands put forth by the People's Movement and allow for the peaceful gathering at Padang Merbuk on June 22nd to proceed smoothly. Terima kasih. Soalan? Tak ada. Terima kasih. Yes. No, in 10 years the increase, wage increase is 2.6%. Now, given that scenario, it is unacceptable to imagine that the government should proceed on imposing additional taxes, GST, for example, that would cause major hardship to the common people. So I think what needs to be done, as alluded in the first para, is a proper procurement policy. Stop the wastage. I mean, you are talking about 20-30 billion ringgit of commissions and bribery and extravagant spending. Look at the Auditor General's report, and this must be addressed first. That is why any issue of macroeconomic planning and fiscal policies, including taxation, must be seen in the context of good governance, which means no excessive spending, no commissions and corruption, and a more transparent procurement policy. Well, I think the minister concerned have alluded to the fact that they would require this to increase government revenue by another 27 billion ringgit. Otherwise, they will continue to have this major problem deficit. Now, we differ, and our position differs strongly with the position of BN, because our position remains consistent that you have to start with proper transparent procurement policies, which means you save billions, stop the excessive spending, billions, reduce the excessive, exorbitant expenditure on the Prime Minister's office, huge entourage and thousands of personnel, and that will be, by the billions. In fact, the initial report or position that we took, at least 4 billion ringgit alone from the Prime Minister's excessive Maharaja type of expenditure in his office. And I would challenge him if he can refute this by, producing the figures of the entire Prime Minister's office, personal office, entourage, excessive expenditure, which is unprecedented from what I know all my years as Minister of Finance and all throughout the history of this country.